This weekend at Lydden Hill, the sun is shining and there is a stunning grid of cars for the Retro Rallycross Championship. Some we've not seen before, others old favourites, all of which give this great snapshot of the history of Rallycross, ranging from the 1970s right to the Group B supercars of recent times. After qualifying, Steve Harris has been fastest in Q2 and Q3 with his Ford RS200, but also looking very rapid indeed, Liam Doran with the family's RS200, the World Rallycross Championship front runner, quickest in Q1. So, the Retro Rallycross Cars semi-final one about to get underway. Gary Simpson is on the grid and so is Stewart BOWES with the Mini. We are missing, though, John Cross with the Lancia Stratos. We do have Paul Smith, and Steve Pascoe's Sierra sadly has not made it to the line either. The lights go green, though. We go racing, and Gary Simpson with the 3 Series BMW is the man that will lead them down towards Chessons for the first time. That 325i, a car that he ran for a time in Super National Rallycross, should here have the pace to be able to sprint away from Stewart BOWES in the Mini. They come down towards the Devil's Elbow, turn their way through that tight left and then make the climb uphill. Stewart BOWES, the caterer, who began in 1990, he's got this ex-Mike Dresser Mini chasing on in second place, and then it's Paul Smith next up in the G40 shaped Volkswagen Polo. Down the hill they come then, and Gary Simpson getting away, trying to build a gap now over everybody else. He was the Super Retro Rallycross winner at Silverstone. Neat and tidy as he comes through paddock, and now he can just control the pace here because he's getting away all the time from Stewart BOWES with that flat-fronted sort of mini clubman shaped car. There were hordes of these in the 70s and early 80s in Rallycross, and around here there were some giant killing acts as well. Gary Simpson then back to tarmac, looking oh so strong up front, as you'd anticipate given the pace that he's got in this car. Paul Smith looking a bit distant now in the Polo in third place as he makes his way now across the loose at Chessons. This is the target though that he's trying to catch, the Mini. Stewart BOWES at the wheel of it. Downhill comes Gary Simpson once more, sideways this time, puts the witness mark down on the ground, and the BMW, very smartly presented car. As it got a little bit older, it just became that little bit uncompetitive for Super National, but has made a big hit coming into Retro Rallycross this year. Back towards the tarmac then, and now to the loose again goes Simpson. What's going to be interesting is to see how this car would shape up against the four-wheel drive opposition, but there are enough four-wheel drive cars here to have their own final, and a two-wheel drive final we will have. It's something like 19 cars in the Retro Rallycross entry, which is very impressive indeed, and the car's also set to star at the World Rallycross Speed Machine event at Silverstone at the back end of May. Up the hill now comes Simpson. The BMW brakes, turns into the hairpin, but all he's got to do now is just tick off the laps, make sure he doesn't make a mistake. He's playing to the gallery though with a big slide coming out of the hairpin. In contrast, the understeering Mini of Stewart BOWES comes through in second place. Simpson over the loose, ready to start the last lap. Stewart BOWES there in second over the loose section of circuit, and Paul Smith, best of the rest, running in third place now. So Stewart BOWES steps down onto the loose at Chessons. It's a much faster part of the circuit, much flatter than it used to be. And he comes now across the loose, back towards the tarmac, although so much of a loose section of the Rallycross circuit these days is, if you like, broken tarmac or concrete. There's still relatively high levels of grip to be found, not like the old days of a very slippery, chalky surface down at Chessons Drift here. Up towards the hairpin comes BOWES, stands on the anchors. That's Paul Smith in the Polo, the Volkswagen technician, a bit distant, sadly. He should be good to get himself into the final, given that we've only got the 3 starters here. So Gary Simpson is going to win the first semi-final for the Retro Rallycross two-wheel drive brigade, ahead of Stewart BOWES, and Paul Smith coming through to take third place. For Gary Simpson, a relatively easy drive. Paul Smith just lacking pace, it seems. He's been a real stalwart of the Retro Rallycross movement, and it's a shame that the Volkswagen Polo is not that little bit pacier, because he's always there and enjoys the sport, and it's great to have him on the grid. Paul Smith then comes through now to qualify for the final. So Gary Simpson, Stewart BOWES and Paul Smith are the 3 drivers that will go through. John Cross, a non-starter, so too Steve Pascoe. Semi-final 2 for the two-wheel drive cars is on the grid. You've got Steve Cousins, there's Mark Finch missing sadly, but there is Simon Hart with the immaculate Ford Escort Mark 1. Tony Lynch is there, but I don't see the other MR2 of Paul Easterbrook. The ex-autocrosser is not there. Remember, he had a suspension break and a wheel come off at Silverstone, and he's not made it to the grid here. So we go racing with Steve Cousins leading them down towards Chestons, and Tony Lynch goes into second spot there. The construction manager, former rally driver, former rally co-driver, and Super National and Stock Hatch champion as well, goes now through into second place with Simon Hart doing the chasing. Steve Cousins, though, getting away. Former Super National racer with the V6 Clio and the Lotus Exige. The ex-Dan Rook Citroën AX leads the pack. And Tony Lynch, 3 times a Northwest Rally champion, is coming under attack because right there with him is Simon Hart in this replica of John Taylor's 1973 European Rallycross Championship car. The Haynes and Maidstone livery carried on the Mark 1 Escort. It's absolutely mint, and it's a great recreation of how the sport looked in the early 1970s. Downhill comes Hart using all of the width of the road. Tony Lynch changing from Super National to Retro this year. The car, not a rallycross car initially, it was an old stage rally car from Scotland that they built into a rallycrosser. But Tony Lynch, another great exponent and great character within the British Rallycross Championship, just fancying a change for this year. Comes across the loose now, heading back towards tarmac. So Lynch, power on, but actually he's not shaking off Simon Hart, who gets better and better every time out in this Mark 1 Escort, and he's having a look to the outside line there, wide in, hopefully tight out, might just net him a place as they go up the hill. He's all sideways, tail wags on the Escort. Can he get up alongside Lynch? He's going to have a good go, that's for sure. Up the hill, now brake hard into the hairpin, but Tony Lynch is going to just fend him off. A much more recent MR2 keeping this early 70s Escort at bay. Steve Cousins in the hot hatch Citroën is away and gone, as again Hart has a look up the inside, but he can't find a way through. Across the loose they bounce once more. Back to tarmac. Steve Cousins out of Chestons. There's no joker lap, remember, in Retro Rallycross, so it's the normal lap every time. You didn't do jokers in period for these cars, so why do it now? Steve Cousins continuing to build that gap up front. Brakes hard for the hairpin, turns through the right-hander. And so for the two-wheel drive final, him versus Gary Simpson will be a very interesting fight indeed, as now Simon Hart gets the run up the hill, goes ahead of Lynch, but is he going to be able to find a way by? Goes too deep into the corner, doesn't he, on the outside line. Cousins comes through though now to start the last lap, heads for the loose once again. For second, Hart round the outside, he's done it this time, but does he go too deep into paddock? Yes he does, he's out wide, and Tony Lynch goes back through. In period, that move would have spelled disaster because a huge earth bank, Mabs bank, would have caught out Simon Hart. At least in the modern age at Lydden, he's got a bit more room, a bit more real estate with which to play. Cousins climbs the hill for the last time, looking good for the race win here. Brakes hard, turns now through the hairpin. Back onto the power, ready to come through paddock and take the checkered flag this time. So, all good for Steve Cousins. That will get him into the two-wheel drive final. He skips across the loose. He goes now up towards the timing line, and Steve Cousins is the winner of semi-final 2. Lynch versus Hart. You'd think this was the final itself, the way they've been squabbling, but Simon Hart is determined to get through if he can. He's done it once, briefly at paddock. He takes that wide line again. But Lynch, I think, should be able to cover him off as they flick through that little chicane up towards the line. Tony Lynch is second, and Simon Hart bags third place. Steve Cousins wins semi-final 2 ahead of Tony Lynch. Simon Hart comes through in third. Mark Finch and Paul Easterbrook, the 2 missing from the grid. A great grid of four-wheel drive cars. Just look at that. It could take you back to the mid-80s almost, couldn't it? Steve Harris will start on pole in the RS200. The tribute to Mark Rennison's British Championship winning car. David Halford's Audi, made to look like Herbert Breitenader's Quattro, is alongside. Roger Thomas with his 6R4 is ahead of Liam Doran and then Rob Gibson. Derek Job missing though from the back of the grid as the lights go green. Great start by Roger Thomas, who bolts away, but it's Liam Doran carving his way through from the second row of the grid, who will lead ahead of Harris as they go down towards Chestons for the first time. And Thomas, having bolted away initially, then seemed to lose pace on the drag down towards turn 1. Rob Gibson runs fourth. David Halford is fifth as they come then to the Devil's Elbow, and Liam Doran in the car that his father Pat used in Europe and to win the British Championship Liam Doran leads the way up the hill. He's been on the podium in the World Championship. He's been a winner in the Americas Rallycross. He's, of course, been a real star when he won the Rallycross Grand Prix in the UK in the past. And Liam Doran now being let off the leash, if you like, in the family RS200. Let's just watch him at work as Roger Thomas goes through paddock in the 6R4. So it's Fords 1 and 2. And the MG Metro 6R4 in third place. Roger Thomas now then comes back onto tarmac. Rob Gibson in the car that he raced in the 80s. After Group B rallying was banned, there was this influx of Group B cars into Rallycross. Rob, a Ford dealer, got rid of his Porsche 911 and went the 6R4 route, as always, in his familiar bright yellow colours. And he and his wife Shirley, prime movers behind the retro Rallycross movement. There, in its period colour scheme, is Liam Doran. Q8 Oils came into the sport in a big way, also threw lots of money at truck racing in the mid to late 80s. The RS200 up front. Now there, Steve Harris in the car with that very distinctive rear wing, just like Mark Rennison ran it in the late 1980s before Mark had a spell at Formula Ford and indeed briefly the British Touring Car Championship. David Halford in the car made to look like Herbert Breitenader's Quattro with its oh-so-famous barrel roll. But Liam Doran, a master at work here as he comes back onto the tarmac surface. His dad's out in the supercar class this weekend, and Liam Doran is on the limit here. Flings the car uphill. It's a very valuable Rallycross car, of course, these days, but Liam Doran is driving it with perfection. Up the curve, home soil as well this. The Doran family owns the Lydden track, and Liam is on target to win, but he's not dawdling, is he? He's not looking after the machinery, far from it. Smoke pouring off the tyres as he comes through paddock, flicked it up the curb, way up onto two wheels, dives onto Chesson's Drift for the last time. David Halford, in the meantime, comes through the hairpin. Quattro with its distinctive engine note powers downhill. Steve Harris looking good for second place. His two sons in RX 150 and supercars as well, so a real family day out for the Harris team here as David Halford chases after Rob Gibson across the loose and starting the last lap. But Liam Doran is looking good for a win, and boy has he thrown everything at this. Coming out of the hairpin, again smoke pouring off the rubber. Liam Doran has given it everything. It's been great to watch. Roger Thomas, who we will see in the supercar class at some stage during this year, goes up the hill as through the chicane over the line goes Liam Doran. He wins the retro Rallycross four-wheel drive final. Second is going to go the way of Steve Harris, and Roger Thomas is set for third. It's a Ford 1-2 at Lydden. It takes you back, doesn't it, looking at these cars? Absolutely stunning to see the way that retro Rallycross really has taken this major step forward this year, and with enough four-wheel drive cars here at Lydden to boast their own final. Full marks to all involved. Excellent stuff. Rob Gibson comes through then to take fourth, and David Halford will be fifth. Well, Liam Doran has done the business, no question about it. Arm out of the door to acknowledge the fans and the marshals, and Liam Doran victorious here on home soil. So to confirm the four-wheel drive final, it's a win for Liam Doran ahead of Steve Harris and then Roger Thomas. Rob Gibson fourth, David Halford fifth. A real shame that Derek Job didn't get to the line. In the championship, Steve Harris leads from Job. Halford is third, Rob Gibson fourth, and then Liam Doran in fifth. But we've got one more retro Rallycross championship race still to come. It's the two-wheel drive final with Gary Simpson on pole and Steve Cousins for company. Stewart BOWES lines up on the outside of row one ahead of Tony Lynch and Simon Hart, looking to continue their battle of semi-final one. Paul Smith is at the back, Mark Finch and John Cross absent. They also missed their semi-finals. Lights, go green! Good start by Lynch. Good start by Cousins from the middle of the front row, but Gary Simpson's got the tighter line and he leads onto the loose at Chesson's Drift. Gary Simpson it is then. He's got the advantage as they come now across that loose section and they're heading up towards the tarmac. Simpson should have the power here. It's a fast circuit, Lydden, so that plays into the hands more of the BMW than the Citroën. Silverstone perhaps would have been a different story last time out, but Simpson now should be able to make the climb and build this advantage as he heads up the hill now. There is Steve Cousins in second spot. Brakes hard, goes into the hairpin, turns through that tight right. And these two already gapping. Stewart BOWES third in the Mini. BMW, Citroën, and then British Leyland, the flat-fronted Mini. There it is, in third place. Comes up towards the end of the opening lap of the race. Cousins rides the curb, but he has got to throw everything at this because Simpson is away. Through they turn lower down. Tony Lynch keeping Simon Hart behind him. Now they had that great fight, remember, early on in the semi-finals. Battle carries on here as Gary Simpson now goes to the devil's elbow, and way off the road there, look, is Stewart BOWES. Something has gone horribly wrong for him through Chessons. He's on the grass, and it looks like he's going to park it. Stewart BOWES possibly with a problem then, off the track, and is that the end of the day for him? Let's see. Rest of the cars making their way then down towards paddock once more. So Steve Cousins, the retro winner at Silverstone, chases the super retro winner at Silverstone, Gary Simpson. Both therefore leading their respective classes, although for outright honours, Simpson has the nod. Hart once more closing up onto the back of Lynch. Paul Smith doing his best to stay with them as well there in the polo, but this battle that raged on all the way through the first semi-final, carrying on right here as well. Up the hill climbs Gary Simpson. To the hairpin he goes, brakes hard, turns through. Throws the back of the car round now so he can point in a straight line out of the hairpin and charge down the hill. He's great to watch in this. And although four-wheel drive Rallycross cars are oh so spectacular, there is still nothing quite like seeing a rear-wheel drive, two-wheel drive car on full opposite lock. Out of the chicane comes Gary Simpson. He will start the last lap here at Lydden as Simon Hart on the outside of Tony Lynch goes really wide. Tries to stay alongside him, but he can't do it. Lynch is ahead as they drop downhill now. Simon Hart deserves this place in a sense because he has tried everything over the semi-final and the final itself. Tony Lynch deserves it because he has been able to defend. He's put the car exactly where Simon Hart does not want it to be. Gary Simpson, though, is heading for another super retro Rallycross victory, and this time he's going to win the final as he gets ever more sideways through the hairpin. Great to see. The unofficial drift winner as well is Gary Simpson at Lydden. Down the hill he comes, turns right into paddock. Steve Cousins in the front-wheel drive Citroen still chasing on behind him, but Gary Simpson is going to win here at Lydden. Round 2 of the Retro Rallycross Championship is Gary Simpson the winner. Second goes the way of Steve Cousins, and the Lynch-Hart battle still goes on. Tony Lynch still defends. Simon Hart pendulums his way out of the hairpin and loses a couple of lengths as a consequence. And that, despite the battle that's been going on all through the race, should just give Tony Lynch the advantage up towards the checkered flag. There it is, and the MR2 defeats the Mark 1 Escort. Tony Lynch and Simon Hart after great racing all day long. So it is a race win for Gary Simpson. Steve Cousins comes home second, Tony Lynch third. Fourth, Simon Hart, Paul Smith fifth, with that one retirement from the race being Stewart BOWES. For the championship, Steve Cousins leads in retro, but Tony Lynch is up to second at the expense of BOWES. Simon Hart fourth. Gary Simpson is a clear leader in super retro, with Pembrey the next stop.